Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to our deep dive on money momentum. And I am so excited for today's conversation. And that song that I just opened with, I'm going to share the link in the chat for you now. That song, for those of you who don't know my story, my name is Kira. I've been with Life Guides for a year and a half, which means that I have been working with my own guide on my finances for a year and a half. And it must have been, oh my God, it would have been like almost 3 years ago. I ended up leaving an ex, moving in with my mother, and realizing that, oh my God, I'm in a financial situation that I need to get myself out of. And I remember walking down the hill. I lived on a hill overlooking a lake, and I remember walking down that hill so many times, probably over the span of like a month or 2 months, crying, so sad, so distraught about the fact that my life was not what I wanted it to look like. I felt like I had failed. I was in the process of shutting down a business that I also felt like a failure, which now looking back, I'm like, wow, it was so many great things came from that. Um, but I knew that I had to get my mindset right. And I knew that I was sad. I knew that I felt desperate. I knew that I felt like there wasn't any hope. And that whole album by Z is a whole album just built of entirely affirmations. But I listened to that song over and over and over to the point where instead of crying listening to it, by the end of 2 months, I was smiling listening to it. And I was like, okay, I can get my money up. I can make my millions. Like, whatever I need to do, I can do this. And this is the season to make that happen. So a year and a half after that, I joined Life Guides. I had $30,000 of debt. I was still living with my mom, and it had been a year and a half of not being able to resolve the problem and not being able to fix my finances. And as soon as I joined Life Guides, I got a guide specifically for financial well-being, and everything changed and catapulted. I got $30,000 out of debt, so I'm completely debt free. I now have my own apartment in my own place in this cute little town that I've loved. That was like my first big girl choice when I was 21 was to move here, and then to move back here I felt like was like my first real adult choice of cool, I've put in the work. I've become an entirely different woman. The level of determination it takes to be a financially I don't want to say wealthy because I don't know if I like hit the criteria for what I would say wealthy is financially. But I think just like my financial well-being is at a baseline, such a good place that it feels like I finally made my adult decisions and become the woman that I was supposed to be to really get me to the next points in my life. So that song is a really, really, really important one for me. I hope that it ends up being an affirmation for you as you navigate your financial well-being journey. And with that, now that I've told my cutie little story, I want to tell you about this wonderful woman who is on the screen with me right here, right now. We have Candace with us. Her name is Coach She. She's been Coach C. She's been on many, many, many sessions with us this year. So chances are you've probably seen her, heard from her, come to love her just as much as I do. And I've read you her bio quite a few times. So actually, this time I'm going to read you her superpower, which is right on her Life Guides profile. And it says, hey, I'm Candace. You can call me Coach C. My superpower is empowering others to realize their dreams, navigate life's hurdles, and embrace their fullest potential on their own terms. So, Candace, thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your financial journey and kind of why this conversation around money momentum is so meaningful to you and what you hope people might get out of it today.
Thank you guys so much. Once again, as always, I'm so happy to be here and share my story for the umpteenth time. I love telling it because hopefully I empowered, like, you'll never know when that one person is in the room that may be affected. Sometimes I'd be like, oh my gosh, like people might have heard this story before, but I never know when that one spark is going to be in the room. My story comes from a unique one where I didn't come from lack. So my mom was a single mom. I was born and raised in LA. My mom was as well, but she was a single mom and she hustled and grinded for me to raise me. So I never saw a background where I didn't have much of anything. And so when I became an adult, I was used to being coddled and supported and taken care of. I wouldn't say spoiled, but my husband and my mom like to say I'm spoiled. I just find gratefulness in people taking care of me, especially the woman that birthed me and raised me. So when I started struggling with money, it didn't come from like not having any. I really didn't know where it came from. So exploring these conversations with you, Kira, honestly, it opened me up to a lot. And several years ago, I realized that my financial habits were tied to anxiety. So they were tied to probably not wanting to lose what I had become accustomed to. You hear in like alimony or like spousal support battles, you don't want to lose the life to which you've become accustomed, right? And so I think I was so used to instability because one thing that I did experience is my mom moved us around a lot. Like I've been all up and through Southern California my whole life since we left LA. And I think I became impulsive financially because of instability. So I was trying to grasp onto stability through money. And I'm still unpacking that. But I really, really want to touch on this conversation today on a deeper way because your story may not sound like the typical I grew up in poverty or I grew up, homeless, but I still may have a similar story to someone else who might be ashamed to say they have a story like mine where they didn't grow up lacking anything. So why should I have a story? That's not true. We all have a story, no matter if we grew up with a lot or a little. So that's really what it means to me today. And as a wellness professional, wellness is so much a part of your I'm sorry, money is really part of your wellness too. So this is really important to me as a pillar of wellness that I want to help everyone, including myself, explore today.
I love that. And I think, there's the truth of the matter of regardless of what our upbringings were, I actually grew up in a super nice house, but I never knew. My mom never made it clear to us that once my parents got divorced and they shut down their restaurant, that she was beyond paycheck to paycheck. And she could barely afford this house. And we never went out to eat. Which was just like, I thought it was just my Italian upbringing. But once I grew up and grew older, my mom was like, there were times when we almost didn't have the home. And I had no
Mm.
idea, but it played a role. I saw that there was something happening. I started working at 14. All through high school, I had a job. I would go to school during the day, go to work during the night. I bought all of my school books. I bought all of my clothes. My mom didn't pay for any of those things. I think she paid for my car insurance and my phone, and then obviously me living in this home and her cooking for me and my friends. But there's I didn't know that I had it hard, right? Um,
Right.
and I learned that I could always take care of and support myself. And that's the one thing that my mom gifted me through that experience is like, wow, I've been doing this for 16 years, for half of my life now, and I'm only 30. But there's also the truth that regardless of what your background is, what your upbringing was, what your racial background is, what your generational background is, there's also societal programming that happens. We live in such a significantly consumerism-based society. We live in such a significantly instant gratification society. So a lot of it, like I feel like sometimes what happens is we personalize these things. We personalize the debt that we get into. We personalize the bad choices that we make, and we're like, oh my God, I'm a bad person, or oh my God, I can't believe I would do that, or we have all this shame and this guilt. When the truth of the matter is, societally, we've been taught how to overspend. We've been taught how to not be smart with our debt and with our finances. We've been taught make more money so you can live a bigger lifestyle, not make more money so you can save more money so you can have investments so that you can be a
Right.
millionaire by the time you're 50. And we think, there's a big disconnect. A lot of us have these stories around, oh, well, that's just for the rich. And it's negating the possibility that we could ever even get there. So we also minimize our potential and our growth in a world that has limitless possibilities. So before we dive in like fully into today's conversation, I'm curious for you all. Drop 111 in the chat if you have like shame stories or guilt stories around money, because I think that it's real. And I know that we all go through it. 50% of people making six figures or more are living paycheck to paycheck. I think 67% of Americans are in debt. So it's all this is normal, right? And we need to start unpacking it and we need to start being like, okay. What is the foundation of why I'm making the choices that I am making? Because it's not just you having a habit. It's also you living in a society that has made it so easy for you to have a habit. But when we start to realize, oh my God, maybe I don't need as much shame. We've got a bunch of 111s in the chat. Maybe I don't need this much shame. Maybe I can get rid of like half of it today. Then that opens you up to starting to see possibilities. Because if you can't name the reason why you feel shame for something, you can't move through it. If you don't have language for something, you can't figure out how to get from where you are now to where you want to go. And
Yep.
I know, Candace, you've had your own journeys with navigating your own experience of shame, guilt, debt, all of this. What have you learned through your own experience of learning on the go in real life while money is a thing, learning that your self-worth isn't necessarily tied to it, but also learning like, dang, I might have to do a little bit better for myself.
Okay, so one of the things that comes to mind for me is again, it's like my background, right? So similar to your mom, my mom never showed that there was anything going on. So if there was, she never showed it. The most that I ever experienced was literally just flopping from place to place. Like my mom, she was always chasing better. And I think that's part of the conversation of money that we don't have is a lot of us are trying to buy better. Like we're trying to purchase better instead of trying to live better. It's like going to get surgery for something versus going to the gym to make it happen. Right? So my mom was always chasing better. She always hustled, she always grinded. So like you, I learned to be self-sufficient at a young age. I started working at 16. And the only reason I stopped was because they were trying to abuse child labor laws. So they were like, "No, you're not leaving at 10." And I was like, "Well, I'm leaving." So I got let go. But I was working two jobs for 16 years. And so for me, I learned that the only way to make myself feel like I was accomplishing something was to overwork myself and accumulate a lot, right? And so as though although my mom she didn't show that she was very materialistic in that way, she was always trying to chase. So I think what I learned from her was work hard, make sure you want the best for yourself, but also burn yourself out doing it because that's what my mom did. And so one of the things that I learned I had to switch up and be better at was the balance between working hard, being sufficient, but not self-sufficient. Like this isn't a solo journey. So even though you're dealing with financial concerns, one of the things that I love about you all in the chat is that you were vulnerable enough to put a one. Because the thing about life and including money is it always feels better, and that's why I love life guides too. It always feels better when you know someone else has gone through it. When I was dealing with really, really, really debilitating anxiety and depression, my husband would be like, "It's okay. I've dealt with that before." When he was deployed, he dealt with anxiety, he dealt with depression. And I remember all the stories he would share, and I immediately would calm down because I'm like, I'm not alone. Like this man who doesn't feel like he's afraid of anything, or like when my mom would tell me something, or even my therapist, not being afraid to share your own story, like I said in the beginning, it makes you feel better. And so something that I've learned to pivot from is feeling like I have to do it alone. A lot of our communities, especially I will touch on the racial aspect, we fear asking for help. So when it comes to financial woes, we've been conditioned to do it alone, to not ask for help. It's shameful to ask for help, just like it's shameful to go get therapy. So I've had to undo the idea that I have to do it alone. Even during the holidays, and we'll touch on this more later, but if we ain't got it, we can't tell nobody, right? Like we either have to fake like we have it, or we just have to act like we have a bigger responsibility instead of being like, you know what? No, like I don't have it this season. And a lot of families went into debt. Just like a conversation we had the other day, a lot of families went into debt trying to make fetch happen during the holidays when in fact, like they may not have it. So that is something I really had to decondition and deprogram is just being overly self-sufficient and also the idea of having to burn myself out to accumulate things that maybe I shouldn't be chasing in the first place.
You are helping me have so many of my own epiphanies and realizations because
Really?
My mom was that woman. She would have, no one knew that there was struggle going on behind this successful woman who could do and accomplish anything. And that's been a big story of mine for a lot of my life, especially when I moved back into my mom's. The thing that my mom told me, I was with her for 3 years, and she told me this over and over and over. She's like, you never let anyone know how bad it was. And it's interesting. I ran a social media business. I ran a national, almost international business, international in some ways, but um, on the outside, it all looked great. And what I portrayed on social media, it all looked great. And now that I've learned the truth of vulnerability and what it looks like to actually acknowledge where we're at, acknowledge the help that we need, and then get the support to get us where we want to go, I realized that I was portraying this image where I was invincible and no one showed up to save me. And I had mentors. I had one mentor. I had no money. I had people fall through for an event and I owed $6,000 for a big expense. And I was like, if I do the $6,000, I'm going to go into debt. And he's like, well, start asking people for help. And I was like, no. And I talked to him probably for an hour at least every day for 2 weeks. And by the time the end of those, so after 14 hours of this man saying, ask for help, ask for help, ask for help, I finally asked for
Mhm.
help. And I had a teammate that I worked with who is ridiculously well off. And he was like, cool, I'll take care of like 75% of that. And it wasn't anything for him. And it wouldn't have put him in debt or anything. He had just gotten a $200,000 bonus, not even his salary. That was his bonus. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so he like it's pennies for him at that point. And he's like,
Yeah.
you're good. But for me, it would have been a significant chunk of my livelihood that I didn't even have. And it
Mhm.
taught me ask for help, get
Yes.
support. And I still even struggle with that in emotions and relationships of like, I can ask for help now with money and support and guidance, but I even still put up this shield of I'm good, everything's good, I know everything, I'm great. So many
We do,
realizations.
y'all. Yes.
We're not alone in this at
Yeah.
all.
And another thing I want to touch on too is asking for help is you know how like you said, you put on such a facade that people start to believe it. You know, like when they say when you tell a lie enough, you start believing it for yourself. When you put on a front enough, people will start believing that's you. So it may be offensive for someone who wants to help you to be like, "Hey, do you need help?" Like I feel like this may be going on, but I don't want to assume because then maybe that's offensive, right? Like when you see somebody outside a store and they're dressed down, you don't just put like change in their cup, right? Like you don't want to assume they're homeless. It's the same thing with asking for help, but you never know when that person is willing. I remember my car got repossessed. So we're talking about financial concerns and the things that I've had to unlearn and stuff. My car got repossessed because I wasn't being financially sound with my money and I wasn't really getting enough to take care of everything. I put myself in a bad situation with my car note. Well, I had just met my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, and I was crying, but I wouldn't tell him why. And I was stressed out because the repo lady was outside looking at me and I was looking at her. And I was like checking outside every few minutes to see if she was actually trying to take my car. Well, I came outside, my car was gone. And I told my husband, he just laughed. He was like, take my car. I can just walk to work. Take my car. So my point is you never know by sharing your story and telling people that you can trust if they're willing to help you. You just have to open up because finances put us in a bind that sometimes we cannot get out of on our own. And your story spoke to that perfectly as well. Because sometimes it's nothing for someone else to help you. Literally, it's nothing.
I was talking with one of my team members yesterday, circling back kind of to the conversation around financial or around baggage around the holidays, which is real.
Yeah.
All of us go through this.
Yes.
My one of my teammates does not like Christmas, and it's not the commercialized side of Christmas. They're like, I'll do a Christmas tree, I'll decorate. I've got kids. Like my yard needs to have like the most excessive decorations, um kind of like Cindy Lou Who's mom.
And the
And
Grinch.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like
Mary
them fighting
Lou.
over exactly
Yeah.
fighting over it. And so he's like, I like that aspect, but teaching my children consumerism at such a young age and teaching them they have this magazine that they get and they circle all these things that I want and they don't that they want and they don't understand that they've asked for $2,000 worth of things. And they were
Mhm.
like, my 6-year-old is understanding money. So they calculated, they're like, you asked for $1,500 worth of things. Who's paying for that? And
Wow.
there's so much, and I understand why people are stressed around the holidays. I think there's two main
Hmm.
things that happen, which is family, which is a hard one, but money, which is relatively easy to say, in theory, right? To say,
Right.
I don't have the money and this is stressing me out. But there's so many financial expectations for us around the holidays of who do I have to get gifts for? If someone's going to get me a gift, do I have to get them a gift? Am I going to travel? Who, for me, it would be like, who's going to take care of my dogs? How much is that going to cost? So many things. So, what's some other baggage that starts showing up around the holidays that we can start identifying in real time and maybe starting to shift right here and right now as we're having a conversation around vulnerability? Because I will tell you this, everyone, this is a conversation around money momentum. We're not giving you a spreadsheet. We're not giving you a budget. We did a little bit of that last month. If you are still in shame and guilt, and if you can't speak your truth around your money and tell people no, that's blocking your momentum with finances. And the holidays are a great time to start talking about it.
That's right. I love that. Nothing What is the 12-step program? The first step is identifying the issue, right? Like you have to identify it, you have to call it out, you have to speak it out loud. Last week we did talk about baggage when it comes to like relationships and money relationships included, right? So like anybody that started a new relationship, think of how much you want to show up for that person, especially when it's cuffing season and you're like, oh, this is my new boo, like new. I gotta get him or her something, right? So a lot of times, like the holidays will activate like this need to overcompensate, right? So you're really highlighting your beliefs, any memories, any scarcity stories you might have around money. And really what holiday baggage kind of represents to me is overspending to prove your love or loyalty, right? Like again, that cuffing season or gift guilt, like when you do what is it called? Like white Santa or white elephant or something like that. And like secret Santa, or you're trying to make up for what you didn't do last year or what you didn't have growing up. Feeling like if you can't match what they're doing, then you're a bad person, you're not performing well. Or like something that I dealt with was you buy to cope with loneliness or isolation or even grief or stress, because a lot of times in specific communities, money is a trigger and a trauma response. So when we deal with stress around the holidays, for some of us in certain communities, it activates the trauma response. And for me, that was activating overspending. So one of the things that I want you to think of is that baggage isn't literally just about money, it's about your belief systems tied to it. Right. So think of like the last time you overspent during the holidays. What do you guys think the emotion was that you were trying to soothe or convey? Just think about it. You don't have to put it in the chat. You can, if you guys come to the Q&A next week, we can talk about it more. But there is a deep-seated, deep-rooted tie to things that are deeper than just the idea of overspending or guilt around money. That is the trigger that I want you guys to identify, because what it'll do is it'll make you pause before you do something that's maladaptive. You'll actually think about what it is before you do it or don't do it during the holidays.
It makes me think of all the things that we don't say and all of the
Yeah.
things that we don't tell people. So, Candace is asking you to understand the root cause of why you might be overspending or why you might be overextending. And so much of that is us not speaking, us not saying, like, I can't do that, or us not being real with ourselves too. And I think sometimes we get into this fantasy mindset of like, I just got to make it through. I can do it. I can show up. And I remember last year was like the first year I felt like a big girl and could buy everyone in my family gifts. And even this year, I'm in a better financial position than I was last year. But this year, I'm like, I'm not even going home for Christmas. One, because I have a dog who I can't necessarily leave, but two, like it's a lot. Traveling there, being around the family. I just moved. I'm still settling into my home. And when I told my family, I didn't say it in a way where it was up for discussion. There was no room for conversation. There was no room
Love
for
that.
discussion. And they didn't
Yes.
question me on it. Um, And I think when we sit down, and this is where like a guide can really help you on your journey. When we sit down and we figure out our why for things, and I don't ever tell people no without a reason because no it can very easily trigger defensiveness or rejection. But I tell people no with a reason that makes logical sense to them so they can be like, okay, cool. It's not personal. It's not about me. Kira's got her things to do. And I know my aunt's sad. I know that she is like my aunt's probably the most sad out of anyone, but I didn't get any pushback. And that was really nice because it came from a grounded place and I wasn't afraid of their answer. I just knew, like, hey, this isn't the season. And then, of course, I'm adopting a dog today. And that in and of itself, the adoption fee is $0. But I found out that the pet fee at my apartment complex, I forgot, is $350. And I'm like, wow, if I had had to fly up to New York, buy everyone gifts, get care for the one dog, and now potentially a second dog, that would have been a huge bill. And then having another 350 on
Yep.
top of it, I wouldn't have been, I mean, I would have had the finances to take care of that. I could have pulled for savings, whatever, but like I don't need to. And to satisfy a holiday that
Right.
isn't like the most important holiday for me. Like I love Easter. Give me
Mm.
some Easter egg hunt without any emotional pressure from my
Yeah.
family and let me go find some fun stuff. Perfect. But like Christmas isn't an end all be all for me. So we have to start understanding what our motivators are. And I want to
Mhm.
talk a little bit more, Candace, about like this idea of being able to trim out the ways that we're saying yes and no in our lives without creating suffering for ourselves and maybe without others. So what are some other ways that we can cut back, maybe be a little bit more intentional without feeling deprived or without feeling like we're sending ourselves into a spiral because we're making moves that are way too big that maybe we don't have the nervous system regulation to be able to process.
Absolutely. I love the story that you told about saying no and having the confidence to say no. Like you had no was a statement, not a suggestion or a question for you. That's what it translated to me. I think one of the ways you trim is doing that. But if you have hardcore family or friends that don't take your no, no means no, right? In many ways and in many realms. Some people don't accept your no even with rationale. So also understand no is a complete sentence. So if you are so sweet, Kira. I don't know that I would give my family any type of reason. It's no with this face. No. Like, because my mom is one of those people, she's very persistent and she's been asking me for something for a long time. And I have to constantly shorten my responses till the point where it's going to be no, I cannot do it. I am burnt out and I'm tired. No, right? So that is the way, because people be acting like money grows on Christmas trees around here. So we trimming these Christmas trees that people think money grows on, okay? So another way that you can, you know how I always like correlate our series to relationships. So I want you guys to think of shrinking, right? Like, when's the last time you may have been in a relationship where you had to shrink to compensate to accommodate somebody, right? To the point where you couldn't be yourself because you had to accommodate someone else. Was it fun? Did you feel like you could be yourself? Were you authentic? Or did you feel so restricted that you felt like a shell of yourself? And were you resentful about it? Because trimming is making sure that you are not shrinking, right? You're compromising. You're saying no to some things, yes to some things, but you're not shrinking to the point where you're a shell of yourself. And the holidays can make you feel like that. The holidays can make you feel like you have literally exhausted anything. So I gave one of my members in my life guide session an analogy where you have two cups. One cup you're pouring from and one cup you're pouring into. And I told her, pick up both cups. Which water is in which one? I said, that cup is you. Pour it into the other cup until it's empty. That's you now. The other person is full and you are complete. And I said, drink from it. Drink from your cup. She drank and I was like, it's obvious, but what's happening? She was like, I can't get any water. That's the point. You need to trim to where you are able to maintain hydration and supply for yourself. You are the oasis that you always need to run to. These people can come to you and benefit from it, but they should never get all of you, right? That is something that I will preach till the wheels fall off, is that you should not be suffering. At some point, you are making a choice to suffer. And that is something that I had to learn is, am I choosing to suffer? So you want to make sure you're cutting excess, not joy. So you still want to be happy, you still want to find fulfillment. And if there's somebody in your life that you're like, you know what, after I've done all of the work that I needed to do financially for myself, this person could really benefit, that will make me feel good, right? Because compassion and giving does have a healing quality to it, and it does open up ways for us to be productive, right? But you don't want to do it to the point where you're depleting yourself. You want to give smarter, not harder. And you want to make sure that you're intentional about your spending and you're not just doing emotional. So, one of the things that I think is a good practice is do bundle gifts. So, if you see something and say you do want to be a gift giver, you can find something that's the same price. Like I think I should own Ulta, and I say this all the time because Ulta gets, when I do spend, Ulta gets all my money. But what I'll do is I save my spending for the holidays. And for instance, perfume is a good one. During the holidays, the full size of a perfume will be the same price as a full size with a gift set. So buy the gift set, it will feel like, or you can break that gift set open, give one person one of the gifts and one person the other. That one person doesn't have to get all the gifts. That way you've just maximized it, right? Or if any of you guys are really good at arts and crafts or cooking or anything like that, that could be your gift because that's a labor of love, right? Some people love things that are emotionally tied more than financially. Like my husband doesn't like gift cards. I'm like, man, I could just get you a Visa. You could buy what you want. He does not like that. He wants it to be thoughtful. Some people appreciate thoughtful gifts. So if you love to cook, make somebody like a tray of something you've cooked that they could enjoy during the holidays instead of actually going out and buying stuff. And you really just want to pull back in categories that you know that you don't want and that you can build room for other areas. So you want to just make sure that you continually apply the rules that you guys have been learning in our series, but use them wisely, especially during the holiday season. So when I talk about extensions, when you buy stuff on Ulta or Best Buy, use your cashback extensions, use all of your different modalities that we've taught, because again, you don't want to burn yourself out. You want to maintain that oasis that you should always be before giving to other people. And even make sure you say no to yourself as a complete sentence too.
Like this is a perfect time of year where we can start having these conversations. And I think Christmas gives us a great barometer to look at where do we want the rest, like the
Yep.
next year to go, right? Because if we're realizing, I'm curious for you all, drop 222 in the chat if Christmas is one of the most financially stressful times of the year for you.
Mm.
I think before this specific holiday or before I got out of debt, it was. I think all year used to be really stressful, and I think this time now is a little bit more. Um, but what that means is like we have the holidays are gonna come this year, they're gonna come next year, they're gonna come the following year. I don't know if they'll come in like 10, 20 years. I think that our generation, Candace, is gonna change the game for like how we celebrate holidays, what matters, the perspectives that we bring. I think we'll untraditionalize things in ways that make it a lot easier for us to do what we need to do while still loving and celebrating people. But in the immediate run, you're going to have Christmas 2025 as a barometer. And then you're going to
Hmm.
have Christmas 2026 as like, what did I do over those 365 days with my money? Where did I grow? Who did I
Mm.
become? So I want you all to drop one word in the chat that describes the energy that you want your money to have over this next year. Like if we were looking at Christmas 2026, how do you want to feel? What do you want to work towards for 2026? Do you want to feel like you are abundant? Do you want to feel like you're secure? Do you want to feel like you're diligent? Do you want to feel like you're resilient? Do you want to feel like you're stingy? When I first started my journey, I wanted to feel frugal. I wanted to
Mhm.
feel like I had no money so that I could just save it all and hoard it all. So while people are putting those in the chat, we do have a question from Olivia, and she said, could you touch on what a cashback extension is?
Oh, girl, you asked the right person. I should be the advocate and CEO for Listen to me. Everybody, if you have the chance, if you have Google Chrome or Safari, those are the two that I'm familiar with, go to retailmenot.com and preferably on a desktop browser. That is one of the extensions. And then you go to, I'm going to use Ulta, right? If y'all like Ulta or if you like Best Buy, that's another one, but they kind of cheaper on Best Buy. They don't really give cash back. Capital One Shopping, Rakuten, which used to be called Ebates, if y'all are familiar with Ebates. Um, PayPal Honey is kind of stingy too. But what it does is when you install the extension into your desktop browser, and now they do it for mobile browsers as well, where if you are on Safari or Google Chrome, but for iPhones, it's only Safari. These extensions will show you, hey, especially for the holidays, this is how you maximize your ROI. I always talk to y'all about ROI because I'm trying to get something back for what I'm giving. If you're giving somebody a $200 gift, basically indirectly, they should be paying you back through these extensions, right? So you buy something. What the extension does is it registers that you made a purchase. So you want to activate it. So for Capital One shopping, typically I'll get back like 24% back, right? And I'm always buying from Ulta. 24% back of whatever you buy, or 24% of whatever you buy, as long as you activated that link, that cash back, it will come back to you. It will be in a repository for you to cash out. So a lot of the times, a lot of the stuff that I get is from rewards that I've gotten from buying through the extension. That is the only way. I don't buy in stores. Yes, absolutely. I don't buy in stores anymore because the stores don't give you cash back. Online does. You are being incentivized to buy, but don't fall for the gimmick of just buying for the sake of it. But when you do need to buy, always, always, always act, and I activate all of them. That way I'm getting cash back from everybody. I'm telling you right now, everybody's gonna pay me. I'm getting systemic oppression, you finna pay me, right? Like you are fin to pay me back for this trial that I've gone through, right? Financially. But I'm just saying, you guys use these to your advantage. We live in a consumerism society. Make the consumerism, make capitalism pay you back. That's how you take back the system. That's how you storm the walls of capitalism. You make them pay you back. Every institution, every platform, make sure they pay you back. If you use debit, try to use a card that gives you cash back like Discover. If you use credit, obviously know how you should pay it back, but if your swipes are going to count, make them count towards you. Especially during the holidays, you're probably spending money, make them pay you back so you basically in the long run aren't paying as much for something. Those are the only ways I shop now. I only buy online pickup. If you need it that day, you can buy online pickup in store. But I still get cash back for doing it. So please, you guys, if you take nothing else from me, cash back through your means of purchasing things. Always.
Even I was just looking at a crate for my new dog. He's crate trained. Yay.
Yay!
I know, right? Because my current dog hates the crate so much. I could
Same.
never. Um, but it's so interesting. I was on the Petco or PetSmart, whatever website, and it was
Right.
an online only deal for 50% off the crate. And I
Yes.
almost went in store. And what's interesting is I can buy it online and then have in-store pickup. So I still
Yes.
get the deal. I don't have to wait for it to be delivered. I don't have to go to my mail room that has like a ridiculous amount of Christmas packages right now, but I still pay literally $96 less than I would have paid if I walked into the store. That's
Period.
ridiculous. So do your research too. Start studying, start shopping around. There's so many good ways to buy things. Like there's a juicer that I want that is a five to $700 juicer. I have the budget to buy it outright, but in my mind, spending that much on a juicer is like, dang, do out of all the things that I want to spend $500 to $700 on, is it a juicer? And
Mm-hmm.
I found it brand new that someone got for a gift this year, and they never used it for like $100 on Facebook Marketplace. Someone bought
Yep.
it before I could get it, which is annoying, but there are ways that we can be smarter about the things that we do, the way that we make purchases, and again, the way that we cycle our money, because where your money goes matters. Um,
Yes.
like being able to realize that, cool, I could buy it from this company that I'm sure has many, 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 many dollars, or I could buy it from someone in my local community and they're going to have money back during the holidays that maybe they need to have less stress. And maybe that's why they're selling it too. So there's so many
Mm-hmm.
things, but I remember the thing I wanted to say earlier. You don't have to demonize spending as well. So as we get into these conversations around being aware of what you're doing, how you're spending your money, having a budget, tracking, doing the cash back apps, making sure that you're using things to your greatest advantage, the last thing that I want you to do is feel like spending money is a stress. And if you're in debt, if you've had poor financial habits, then you might you might just need to work through that now and be like, okay. But when you get to a better place, you don't have to demonize spending. It can be fun. I have a clothing budget. I buy clothing every single month. I have friends who don't, and they don't have a clothing budget. But for me, I love going shopping. I love clothing. I'm usually thrifting or buying local. And I love it. So instead of having it be a free for all, I have a cap. I cannot spend all of my money on clothing, even though I want to. But when I do spend it, now it feels like even more of a treasure hunt because my budget's only $150 a month for clothes. I just spent half of that. I'll show you guys.
She's so excited. I love when
I'm
she shows
so
us stuff.
excited. I just spent half of that on a fur jacket that I got at a
Check. That
market
is
the other day.
beautiful.
I
That
know.
is
And I'm like, I've been searching for this jacket for months and it becomes a treasure hunt, right? It becomes this experience where I can be like, oh my God, I finally found it. And it's lower than my budget. And it's just fun and exciting. So there are ways that you can make spending money and living life in a consumerism society fun and
yep.
enjoyable.
Yes, absolutely. Would you say that because the one thing is like, this is why I don't like the word budget because it has a connotation of like doldrums and dread. Do you feel like because you have that parameter for yourself of spending for clothing that it is now intentional? Whereas if you did have a free for all, there you know how they say like the best things in life are earned and you work hard for them versus if something is given to you, you don't necessarily value it as much. Do you feel like that parameter makes your search for clothing more intentional and like you said, more treasured? Yeah.
Even little things. Like I was at the grocery store and I saw a cute tote bag. And when I first moved 2 months ago, I didn't have a budget. My only focus, like it's a lot. The three most stressful times in your life are divorce, moving, and death. And I didn't realize that until I was in it and I was like, wow, I'm so stressed out. This is ridiculous. But I
Mhm.
remember being at the store, knowing that I didn't have a budget, especially because there were so many house things that I had to buy that it was just whatever. And I saw this tote bag. It was $20. It was an adorable tote bag. And I was like, oh, it's only $20. And I heard myself say that thought in my head. And I'm like, this is how it starts, Kira. We only
Mm.
spend $20 on this and we only spend $20 on that. And because I didn't have a budget that was mentally capped, I was like, oh, it's only $20. But yo, it only takes spending $20 5 times to spend $100. It only
Yep.
takes spending $100 10 times to spend $1,000.
That's
That
right.
adds up. So it also has given me perspective of the fact that like I don't think that we understand the true accumulation of how much we spend if we don't have a way to track it and if we don't have a way to say, this is what I wish to spend or this is where I wish to be. My clothing budget right now is 150. I don't think this month I'm even going to hit 150, which is so exciting because normally I've never been below it. This might be my first month that I'm actually finally below it. But there were a lot of times where I was like, wow, my habits are way above where I want to be. And having that mental cap over time got me to this place. So it was never I need to be rigid and only spend $150 on clothing and like again take away the joy or make myself feel shame or destroy a process that should be fun for something that I'm going to have to experience and explore over a lifetime. You will have to spend
Mhm.
money every day or almost every day for the rest of your life. So you might as well learn how to do it and make it fun so now I've been able to finally meet myself where I wanted to be, but that was a goal that I set for myself a year ago. So it's taken 365 days to get there.
But now you can say it's only $20 because you have a system in place. Like you haven't even hit your $150 parameter, right? So if you see something that's $20 and you haven't even maxed out your parameters, you could say it's only $20. I still have 130 left. Like now the same statement shifts cognitively because of the system that you put in place. Without discipline, restrictions feel like rebellion, right? But when you have discipline, they feel like freedom. So the same exact statement now feels freeing. I have freedom now with the 130 more dollars versus, oh, it's only $20. Oh man, now I would be continuously spending if I don't stop. So I love that.
Exactly. It's fun. Being on a
Yeah, it is
financial
fun.
well-being journey has changed me as a woman and has made me a much better person. And I think this is a perfect place, Candace, for us to start speaking about the psychology of money and to start talking about habit stacking and how we can keep this momentum going, especially for those of you who put in your words in the chat of what you wanted to feel over the next year. It's going to take some work to get there.
Yeah. So I talk about like habit stacking in a way because in the wellness space, a lot of times people, like if I'm personal training, for instance, like a lot of people have a mindset that like exercise is not fun, right? I'm like, watch a comedy show. Like if you work out from home, watch a comedy show. Watch now. I used to only think you could work out with music. Now that I've been exposed to more um, kind of models of teaching and training people, I see it as more of a way to open yourself up to doing more of the things you love while you're learning to do things that you will eventually love. So, joy and structure is a beautiful combination that can make sustainability out of discipline, right? So you can do holiday rituals. So one of the things that you should do is if you, let's just say you do create a parameter for your budget and you want to spend money for yourself this year, or you're a gift giver and you want to plan for buying people things. Let's just say you have a parameter of $500 for people and you decide, you know what? I'm saying no to half those people, but I still have this $500. Make it a fun, like you said, Kira, a treasure hunt. What I would do is I would create a shopping day out of it where I'm not just shopping for myself, but I'm shopping for other people for next year. So if I find that I have a lot of deals using Rakuten or Capital One shopping, I could make a shopping day, like a fun day out of, okay, this person might get this next year. Like it could be a treasure hunt with those holiday deals to buy people things for next year. I'm not only saving money because, you know, around the holidays and especially after Christmas, a lot of stuff goes on sale because they're trying to get rid of it for next year. So you can do that, right? And then you guys know I always talk about financial dates. So have the candles, the music, your favorite sippy sip, right? And something comforting. And you can even do that stuff while you're doing your, let's call it a money management system instead of a budget. Your money management system, right? And I want you guys to really, really, really think about something that you have to start today. Whatever that one thing is that you feel like if I don't start this today, I'm sacrificing something important. I met someone yesterday at my husband's job. She was like, she was saying she might not be here next year, so she needs to get started. I'm like, that's terrible language. Why would you say that about yourself? Instead of saying that you need to get started on exercise because you might not be here next year, say that you want to start exercise now so that you can continue to thrive. So when you do these joy-based rituals, think of it in the positive way and set yourself up for success. It could even be giving yourself like a nice workout before you get started on money management, right? Because working out or doing like a fun physical activity opens you up cognitively. It actually evens you out. So you're not going to necessarily be as impulsive. You're not going to be as emotional. You're actually going to be more sound when you make your decisions. After you accomplish something financially, you can even have a little celebration. Make it free or make it really inexpensive, but you can give yourself like a dopamine reward, right? You can do a lot of things that when you pair them with something that might seem daunting by itself, they actually come out rewarding. And I want you guys to think of joy being a willingness to succeed in your financial journey. So when you pair these systems and habit stack, whether you're pairing it with like a fun show or a podcast while you do money management, this is going to be the consistency that builds momentum for you. If you find a system that works, you stick to it. Just like a good any habit that you want to incorporate in your life, you start it and you be consistent with it, and that builds momentum. But remember to always pair it with something that you enjoy, or else you're going to put it off and not want to get started.
And if you start looking at like the actual hormones that are released when you work out, things like that, one of the greatest reasons why working out is such a good tool that Candace just brought into this conversation is that endorphins are released in your body when you do something hard and you feel satisfaction from it. That's where strength training, HIIT workouts, even going for a 5 minute sprint could be so helpful for you because it shows you your resilience and the fact that doing hard things is going to make you feel good. And sometimes we get paralyzed, and it's very easy to underperform sometimes when we have anxiety, when we get paralyzed by things and we can't move through it. But if there's something in your life that's a challenge that you're like, okay, and it's kind of a fun challenge, or I could have someone else in my life help make it funner. Start doing that to show yourself and build that internal narrative of the fact that challenging things are fun and easy for you. You can also gamify things. If you're like,
Yeah.
dang, I gotta sit down and do my budget for 25 minutes, maybe you make a banana bread beforehand, and then while the banana bread is in the oven, you're working on your money management. And then once it's done, you have ooey gooey, buttery, warm, juicy banana bread. Perfect.
Hmm.
Or
Yep.
if you're like, you know what, if I do, there's a thing called the Pomodoro method
Pomodoro. Yeah.
where you can set a timer for 25 minutes and you do a specific task during that time, and then you set a timer for 5 minutes and you take a break, and then you set another Pomodoro and then another 5 minutes. And you could even set your goal, like for me, for my taxes, I want to do one Pomodoro a day, just 25 minutes. And once I do that for, let's say if I do it 3 times in a week, then I can take myself out to dinner because
That's
I
right.
want to give myself a reward at the end of it where doing the thing that I really genuinely don't want to do is actually going to get me what I do want. I love food. Or even setting a 5 minute timer. If you're going to do something that you really don't enjoy doing, you can do anything for 5 minutes. And usually,
That's right.
once your energy is moving in that direction, it becomes so much more enjoyable. And usually, we get tunnel vision and we're like, oh my God. And the 5 minute timer goes off, and you can stop it then and there if you're like, wow, that was literally treacherous. I'm so grateful that I made it through. Perfect. Or you could be like, you know what? Maybe I got another 5 minutes in me and just see what you can experience and explore within yourself. But it doesn't have to be hard, and you can make all of this a lot easier for yourself.
That's right. That's called the flow state. When you set that timer for 5 minutes, I remember when I was too scared to leave my bed, right? And my husband would be like, I just want you to go sit in your office, this very office, for 5 seconds. I went and came in here, and every day I was like, you know what? I'm a little cozy. Okay, I'm scared. I'm gonna go back. Like you said, it might have been the latter where I'm like, okay, that was horrible. I just want to get through it. Then, as I got more and more healed mentally, that 5 minutes, I was like, you know what? I actually feel like I want to do some work. And I would sit in here longer and sit in here longer. And the thing is you can sandwich, you could think of it as a sandwich where you put the challenging stuff in the middle, and then you put the two things you enjoy, one in the beginning and then one at the end. Give yourself a little boost with like a physical activity, do the money thing, and then put something that's rewarding, like you said, taking yourself out to dinner at the end. That is another way to ensure that you're consistent because you know you have something to look forward to before and afterwards too, so it doesn't feel like a chore.
And one thing I'll say is if you're already in debt and you're trying to get yourself out of debt, you don't have to be afraid of spending money. If you're gonna pay yourself to do the things that you need to do to get out of debt, that is a good investment. That makes you
That's
your own
right.
asset. So if you're like, oh my God, I'm in debt, I can't take myself out to dinner, but I really need to do my taxes, and the dinner will be the one thing that actually motivates me, then do that because accomplishing that thing is going to be so much more rewarding in the long run and
Right.
in showing yourself that you can do it than restricting yourself from the dinner. And you're going to get a thing that you enjoy while moving yourself forward. And it's just really important to see that you have the ability to support yourself, but you don't have to deeply restrict yourself to the point where you get into paralysis. Because I think that's why I got paralyzed. So there was like 8 or 9 months that my nervous system was in full paralysis, and it had
Mhm.
almost everything to do with money. Almost everything to do with money. I felt like my business was a failure. I didn't know how to shut it down. I didn't know how to let people down. I didn't know how to take control of my life, and I did not know how to take care of my finances. And for about 8 or 9 months, getting out of bed was hard. Showing
Mm.
up for my work was hard. And I had all of these stories. I wouldn't put myself in a better position, or I wouldn't go maybe to something that would activate me and put me in a better place because I was like, I'm in such a bad place, I don't deserve it. And if I
Mm.
something I wish I would have told myself then is like, do the little things that bring you joy and
Right.
build on that every day because that has its own level of compound interest as well. And in our Motivational Monday session next Monday, Charles and I are going to be talking about what wealth truly is. And wealth is a lot more than money. Wealth is so much deeper than money. And getting that holistic perspective is incredibly important.
That's
So,
right.
Candace, we're coming to an end of today's session. Do you have any final words for those who are here with us and might have been along on this journey and they're like, okay, I need to start making some change?
Yeah. Okay. So momentum is about putting together and putting consistency to the systems that you guys have been learning about through all these wonderful talks Kira has put together, right? There is still a mindset to every part of these phases, right? Whether it's money in the beginning when you're learning to develop a better relationship with money, the mindset, whether it's management, whether it's momentum, there's always still going to be a cognitive component to it. So when we struggle with money, it takes a lot of self-analysis and evaluation. You have to take stock and inventory of your maladaptive thought process. So I want you guys to think of the ABCDE method, right? A is what are the facts? What do I believe about money during the holidays? Like, for instance, how much do I usually spend every holiday season? What are three things that I usually spend buy during the holiday season, right? Just the facts. Leave opinions out of it. Then I want you to think of your beliefs about it. So I buy these things every year for people that really I shouldn't be, because if I don't, then I look like I'm not performing well, or I look like I'm not trying to satisfy them, right? C, consequences. What are the consequences of buying into those beliefs? If I believe that I'm having to overcompensate for guilt or shame, then I'm going to constantly overcompensate with buying people stuff, and I'm going to put myself in a bind financially every time. I'm never going to be that oasis for myself because I'm always drying myself out for others, right? D. D is disputing those thoughts. D are as much of facts as A. A are facts when you talk about the activating trigger. A is activating trigger. D are what are the facts. Do I really need to buy people those gifts? Do they really matter? Am I going to use those gifts for myself in January? Are they really going to use them, or are they just going to be paperweights? Right? You dispute them with facts. E, what's the effect of those disputes? What will change if I change? What will change if I change my mind? By disputing these facts, by disputing these thoughts, what will happen? I will help myself get out of debt by saving more room for myself. I will help myself be better for the people around me. I will help myself be better for generations where I didn't learn the right tools because of the generations that came before me. I will break generational cycles. I will be able to afford the things that matter more to me starting today, right? ABCDE method is something that I really, really want you guys to think about, and think of one thing. I say this all the time. One thing you cannot afford to wait on. Y'all know me. I hate New Year's resolutions because 91% of people stop doing them after day 12. The fail rate is crazy. What is one thing you cannot afford to sacrifice anymore today that you can start this week? Today will be your new year. And I want you to keep track of that, and we'll follow up next year because I believe in starting today. Happy New Year, everyone, today.
Today, baby,
Today.
December 10th. How are you going to change your life? I just
Yes.
dropped lots and lots of links in the chat for you. Canvas is a guide with life guides. So the two layers of what we do at Life Guides, one is these events, these group sessions with a guide where you're able to get their insight, but we're not able to give you the insight you need to get to where you want to go. We're able to give you generalized things. We have our one-on-one guide journeys where you get to choose a guide, you get to select the categories you want to grow in, and you pick a guide to help you get from where you are now to where you want to go. Because our biggest challenge isn't knowing where we want to go. A lot of the times it's knowing how to get there. And if we're working with someone who's walked that path before us, then they can say, hey, if you make that right turn, you might end up in a pothole, aka maybe like $10,000 of debt, who knows? Or if you continue straight and make the next left at the next light, you're going to end up in $10,000 in your savings account. And it's little things like that. Like, we just need help getting to where we want to go because we all know who we want to be and where we want to go. So that's what our guides are for. So Candace's profile is in the chat. Each year we have new links for Motivational Monday. So I dropped that link in the chat for 2026 starting on January 5th. Please register for the sessions. We have next week's Motivational Monday in the chat as well. And then we also have next week's deep dive mentorship. So on Wednesday, Candace and I are coming together to answer your questions about money momentum and to help you get deeper. So it's kind of a mix between the event and the guide session where you get to have your face, your voice. We'll ask you questions, you'll ask us questions, and we'll give you the guidance that you need to get to where you want to go. So, with all that being said, we hope that this holiday season ends up being a little bit less stressful and that you support yourself in holistic ways that make you feel better and bring you joy and remind you that you are that beautiful oasis. Thank you so much, Candace, for being here. And for those of you who are on, there's a survey that pops up at the end. I love when you guys fill it out. It's incredibly helpful to me in the work that I do. So please fill that out. And outside of that, we will see you next Monday. Bye, everyone.
Bye.